Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's October 5th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And before we get into the chart lesson, real quickly, I know we've been having some problems with the website being really slow the last few days, particularly today, especially right around 9:30 when I post the mid-morning chart. Basically, what's happened is we've just outgrown the website. So uh, I have I am in the process of upgrading this to a dedicated server with more speed, but it takes at least 24 hours for that to propagate or whatever it is, basically to make the move over. So that's in the process. Hopefully, it'll be done by tomorrow morning, and we won't have all the headaches we had this morning. So if you had problems getting on the site and you were getting 500 internal server errors or just watching at hourglass for long periods of times, that's what was going on. We've just run out of room. We've growth is great, but when it comes real quick like that, it creates a few problems. But hopefully that'll be resolved here pretty quickly, and the speed will pick back up, and we won't have any more issues with it. So that's my hope, and that's the plan. And basically, what we've got going on is that we just been overloaded on the server. So anyway, I'm in the process of getting us a dedicated server with more speed and all that. And so hopefully that'll be coming. Hopefully it'll be ready by tomorrow morning. But if not, sometime tomorrow we should see it pick up. Maybe we'll get lucky and it'll speed up. They'll get it done quicker than that. But they said generally 24 hours. So, but anyway, let's talk about the chart and the trades. Notice that we have a two-tier channel working higher. We had a break here. Really, there's two legs down. Then we moved to a new high, and we really traded sideways to slightly down after that. This market's it's had a little problem selling off lately. We've been trending up here a little bit for a little bit. We've had some up and down days still. Seems like we've been trending up really for the last few days though, so which continued today, which is a good thing. And there was a little gap on the chart today. This is where we opened at 8:30, and we never traded down, so we didn't fill that gap. We may try to do it tomorrow. Generally, those gaps don't last very long. But you can clearly see the two-tiered channel working higher here with the close outside. We tried to move to a new high there. We couldn't. We corrected again. And really, there's two legs of correction. There's a leg down, then another leg, and then we rallied on into the new high there and just went sideways the rest of the day. Sideways to slightly down into the close. So let's back out. We'll talk about the trades. There's not a lot of them today, but there's enough here that still could have a good day today. But there's not a lot of trades, so it won't take long today. But generally, we were trading up. Well, actually, we were still kind of sideways here, but we had this short-term channel that's up. And we had a break and a new high, and then a couple legs down. I marked this trade. Um, you've really got a little bit of a downtrend working here, and you can see that little channel working lower right there. But a lot of times you'll get two legs up, and that's a pretty strong leg. So with two legs back on a second entry, right at the key entry point, a nice bullish signal bar, you may want to take that trade hoping for a measured leg up. And you see we ended up pushing up for another leg before we corrected over. I didn't measure these. It looks like the second leg might be slightly larger. That would have given us a target to here. We went a little bit higher. So you can see that. So we still got two legs up, and then we corrected from maybe 8:30 to right just before 9 o'clock before we came back to the trend line and headed up again. So I like that trade. It's a little bit aggressive, but we are kind of going sideways. And the key is you just want to have enough room to get out before getting back to these highs, which you do because it could turn back down. We end up pushing on higher before it's over. But when you got this close outside and tried to go lower again, and now you got a double test. Notice that you made that low. You came back and tested it once, and then you came back a second time and tested it, and it held. I like going long there, right at the key entry point. when prices have been trending up and we're looking for maybe a second leg up. So that little double test gives you a little bit of courage to go long there. And then we run up to the trend channel line and we start working back. You got a little trend working down here. Notice you get a close outside. You try to go short once, try to go short twice, and it fails. I like going long right there above that one. And you get a quick, easy scalp. Somebody actually asked about a trade. They actually went long right here. But by that time, you really are looking at congestion across there. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 bars by that time. And if you are going to enter here, the way you have to enter, when it breaks lower and turns up, you have to go long one tick above that. You can't wait and go long at the very high of the day up here because you're just too far away from the EMA to go long up here. And so if you're going to go long here, and if you notice, if you go long here, you got room to get out, where here you've actually made a new high right there. I believe that's a new high. Yeah, you can see that's, you made a new high. So you're going long at the high of the day, basically, with no real setup other than you might consider that a trap. And you can tell it probably did trap some people because everybody exited, but then once the momentum of that trap wears out, it runs back. So by going long up here, you've missed all the momentum. So if you were going to enter on this bar, which I don't recommend by that time, it's one tick above this red bar. When this breaks lower and turns up, you got to go long right there. You can't wait till way up here. I mean, that bar by itself that's a 16 tick bar. Going long above it at the high of the day, way away from the, away from the EMA. We've been away for a little bit. This one's even away here, but I'm playing the midline right there. The bounce off of it. Plus, it's a failed second entry short, so it's going to act a little different. So I'm not even going to mark that one. But if you did take that trade, you can't wait up here. You got to go long one tick above right there. Then we pull back. There's a second entry right here, but you don't get the double test, and that's the first break, and you don't quite have a new low, and you're just kind of stuck in this little trading range, and there's not much room there. It does break lower and bounce off the trend line. It's real tempting to go long there, but that's an inside bar. I think you need to wait on something a little better than that. Now, if that would have made matching lows, I'd tell you go long. And honestly, with that being off the key entry point and being a failed break lower with a nice bullish bar, you might take that trade. There's no rule that says you can't take that trade, but inside bars are just not very reliable, and so that's why we usually skip them, and that's why I usually won't mark a trade on an inside bar. But if you want to take that trade and be a little aggressive because it's off the key entry point and it is a failed break lower, and also I believe it's a second entry long as well, so that gives it a little more reason to consider that one. So maybe you go long there. I'm not going to mark it, and you would hope for a high or low here, but you just don't really get a chance until way up here, and then you're getting too far. Even though that's right off the key entry point of this shorter term channel, you just can't go long there. But you come up here and you come back and you make this low, you come back and you make a double bottom, and then you get a double test right there. And it's kind of it's a little bit of a repeat pattern. Breaks lower and turns and goes out. I marked that one just simply because it's a repeat pattern. It's a double test. Generally, those double tests are highly reliable trades. So, especially the fact that it broke lower. Again, you'd probably want to go long one tick above this bar. But you could technically on this one, you could probably enter right there with that double test. It's probably going to trap some. You can tell it traps some traders because look how the momentum rockets up. And then when it runs out of all those stops, it starts losing momentum and going sideways again. There is a higher low here, but you don't want to enter there. You could consider that a failed second entry short. But again, you're just kind of in no man's land. You're not really back to the midline. You're not really back to the EMA. I think you're just better off to skip that trade. Then you finally come back and you get a little double bottom here on a second entry long. Notice that new high, first entry, and then second entry. And again, it broke lower. It didn't go out the other side, but it's right there at the midline. and we've been kind of bouncing up that midline for a little bit now. So I like going long on that second entry double bottom right at the EMA, right at the lows there. But if you didn't go short there, you did have a double test here. And again, you get to go long above the EMA. You got both the EMA and the trend channel support. It's a little trickier if you wait till up here into the resistance to go long. So if you're going to go long when it breaks above this one, technically it didn't break lower first, but it's still probably how I would enter. If it breaks higher right here, that's where I would go long. It's a double test. Unfortunately, this signal bar is not quite good enough. And this one could break higher and turn down too. So I went back and forth about whether or not to make that one green or not. But the trend is up pretty strongly. We still haven't reached this upper side yet. Notice that coming up here, we haven't got there yet. So prices are still attempting to go higher here to do that. And so that's the reason on that double test that I like that one. It's a very bullish bar too. So, and you can tell that momentum again. They just keep trapping people trying to pick longs here. I mean, trying to pick tops. And that's why you don't try to pick tops. Each time we make a little congestion here, people are trying to load up and pick a top and they get trapped, and look how it rockets up. Same thing here. People start loading up on the short and then it breaks higher and it rockets up. And so you don't want to try to pick tops. So same thing here. There's a lower high here. There's a little breakout pullback short out of this congestion. There's a little congestion right across there. But you don't want to go short right there. It works, but it's not worth risking it. You're better off to wait till it comes back here at the trend line and seeing if you can get extend that. I don't know how it would look. Look for a long entry because we haven't had a break of this trend channel yet. The trend is still up. So notice we make that low and you try to go short once, then try to go short twice, and you get a nice bullish bar. I mark this one green simply because it looks congestive. It's a great signal bar. It is a failed second entry short, but smart trader's probably going to wait. And you actually get a higher low here and it still doesn't take off. It actually tries to come lower once more so before it finally takes off. And I think once you started getting this far, you're better off just to wait. And you can see when we go back into another one doing the same thing. And we never do really make a new high. And notice you got that. You do get a new swing high. It's not a new high though after the break. And you move down, you try to go higher once, twice. So when it turns down there, that's a failed second entry long. The only problem is you got all this support and you don't want to go short into that support. So the only way you could enter this trade, I marked it green, is that you might let prices break lower and drop a limit order in there once, and to give yourself enough room to get out, because we're probably going to test that bottom again. And that'd be the only way I'd enter that. You're probably better off just to skip that because that's congestive. But there is a little trap there. I just don't think you're going to trap a lot of longs right there. You can tell that people had to exit when it drops lower here though. But notice you got a double top here, so you can treat that like a new high, and then you get a first entry and then a second entry, and it confirms that trend line. So that's a great place to go short right there. And what you're looking for is just a measured leg down. So measure that first one, move it down, and you'd look for a measured move. And so you got plenty of room there for that measured move. And we run down, and that's where we bounce. We go a little bit further, but not much. And you actually get a first entry short right there. And you just don't get a very good signal bar right here. You really probably wouldn't want to go long yet anyway. You want to see another failure to the downside. And you don't get that till way up here. And now you got two legs up. And you're right in the middle of the original range. Just not a good place to enter. And so you just really kind of have to wait. And that takes you into 2 o'clock. And you don't get anything else. So it's kind of a slow day today. I mean, really, if you look, we spent from 9:30 to basically 2 o'clock in this. If you count the lower half, we spent most of the day in this upper half of the tight trading range. It's only about 6 points. It's a dozen if you count the lower half too, which is not very much in the volatility we're having lately. But it's just hard to trade a 6 point trading range. You really have to get a good entry at the lows, and you don't want to be going short yet either, unless you get something really good to the downside, and you don't only get one till it's almost over. And even this one has got its issues because we didn't really come back and test this yet. We aren't back to the EMA, but my guess is a lot of people are going to be trying to trade the failed breakout. And so when it turns down there, it's going to trap some people. You don't want to go long there because you don't have a good enough signal bar. So let the rookies that don't know any better go long. And if it doesn't work out, then you can take advantage of them. And that's what happens. See, that quick burst down is all the safety stops getting hit. And then when it runs out of steam, it reverses and goes back again. So you really need to understand how these traps work before you trade them. And, I get people that all the time ask why a trap failed. If it failed, it wasn't a trap. You're the one that got trapped. So, you don't even have to ask. Traps give you instant feedback. A good trap does just what it does right here. It rockets up or it rockets down real quick. And that's how you know it was a trap. If it doesn't get that quick burst and it reverses and goes the other way, then either it wasn't a trap or you got trapped. And so, always ask yourself, if you're trying to trade a trap, am I the smartest trader here? Am I outsmarting the average trader? Or, as I like to say, am I the patsy at the table that's getting railroaded here and going to take a bad trade? So always ask yourself that. Am I outsmarting everybody else? And if you can't emphatically say, yeah, I think I am, then you probably need to skip that trade. So anyway, I think that's going to do it today. There's just not a lot going on here today. It was a nice trend, but there's just not a lot of trades here. We didn't come back to the trend line but twice, and then when we came back this second time, it was time for a break because we didn't even get back up to the upper side. And you can see it losing steam. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I hope you had a good trading day. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.